All right, and that's what's latest right now. Now, even in Mombasa, we did have Raila Odinga expressing strong dissatisfaction with the Supreme Court decision up until now. He does not agree with that. He's saying, in a clear hardening position, accusing the judiciary of participating in a scheme to destroy the country's democracy. And also in that particular address saying the judiciary was rogue. Of course, just reiterating what he's been saying over the past couple of weeks. Hesbon, I'll begin with you. Raila Odinga's game plan. Does the opposition really have an agenda when we're seeing Raila Odinga out in the streets, talking to the people, doesn't even call the media to come and be witness to this? We just find out like, oh my goodness, Raila Odinga is in Jivanji, and we rush there and he's talking to the ordinary people, and he's speaking about the issues of the cost of living. And also, this seems to be arcing the new administration.
Well, I think it would just be sensible if we assume that the opposition has an agenda. The question is that agenda in the interest of the public or not? So we cannot sit back and say they don't have. They certainly have an agenda, because in a democracy like the one that we live in, the political party that wins an election forms government. But the one that does not win is in the process of offering alternative thought and leadership in the hope that this government that has been formed has not been given power forever. It's for a limited period of time. In the hope that after that limited period of time, they shall have convinced the public that they offer the best alternative to be given that power. So you'd expect that the opposition would have a very solid plan. And I guess this is something that we'll get to see, in the few coming days. Number two, I think Raila doesn't need to call the media. I think when Raila happens, the media knows that this is newsworthy. So if he decides to go to Jivanji, the media will follow, right, because of the political cloud that he has amassed. And I think it speaks very interestingly about our democracy, that we have this vacuum of someone who can hold conversations in the public domain that attract the interests of the policymakers, the media, and the powers that be, and we have successively believed that it is only Raila who can do that. Other politicians need to emerge. They need to understand that Raila is not going to appoint or anoint a heir apparent. You have to stake your claim. Now, for as long as you're not going to have someone to stake their claim, I think Kenyans should celebrate the space that is occupied by Raila Odinga. I don't agree with Prof, who has talked about tension between, the opposition and government, because for me, it's not a question of tension.
So there is no need for what he terms as useful tension.
No, I think there's need for constructive deposit of things that are of public interest in the public domain. And there's no better person to have things that are of public interest come to the public domain other than Raila Odinga. The question we may need to ask ourselves is, for how long are we going to sustain this kind of, that when he speaks, the government takes it seriously. When other people speak, no one cares, The question then is, what are the critical issues that Raila is addressing himself to, and how progressive are they? Yeah. How public interests in dimension are they? And if they're of public interest, I think it's for all of us, to celebrate that space, whether we voted for him or not. If he brings serious conversations that are attending to our issues, it's a good thing for us.
All right, Prof.
Yes, I think the Raila story is very interesting, and I think reminds me of ancient biblical times where we drew the line, the phrase, the Messiah syndrome. And when we speak about the Messiah, normally we mean Christ. And what is interesting is that Christ had 12 disciples, and even amongst those disciples, there was a hierarchy. You could tell who was likely to take over. And what we see immediately that Christ is killed is robust leadership that has brought Christianity to what it is today. And yes, currently Raila is the Messiah of the opposition. What you're not seeing are the 12 disciples. So that, we're afraid that should anything happen to the Messiah, the opposition will be dead. And my message to Honorable Odinga and the people around him is that it is time as a Messiah to create the 12 disciples, because we need to spread the gospel to the ends of the world. Is Wandai one of those disciples? If so, he should, start behaving like one. Is Mbadi one of those disciples? If so, he should start behaving like one. Is Martha Karua one of those disciples? Yes, he should clear himself of charlatans because we want the position to live beyond him. Otherwise, if he continues like this, then he might go into history as the Messiah who actually killed, the broader message that he had in reality. And for me, it doesn't really matter whether he's in the position or not. It is really about creating a robust leadership that can outlive you so that the principles and the ideas that you stand for, can actually be taken forward.
Right.
And I'm afraid that is not very evident when it comes to Bwana Odinga, and it is time he starts working on that so that, his legacy could even be bigger.
All right. Arnold?
I think as we came to the end of elections, the question was, have we seen the last of Raila? And of course, for so many people, the answer that goes yes was actually a very sad one. So when he comes up and we start seeing him hogging the media space again, people then are asking the question, is this tactical or is it tragic? Of course, I come from a place where I would say it's tragic depending on how you look at it. First of all, let us not begrudge and deny Raila of his Article 38 rights. He has got a right to participate in this particular space like any other person. He even, like you said, he doesn't call media. He shows up and you guys then follow up. So it's not him. He doesn't force anyone else. But then I will say this. Of course, he's also groping in darkness, trying to look for something to hold on. For example, around the elections, this elections thing is a bird without wings. It has refused to fly. In the days of old, he would use that, of course, to spur and organize and have the nation actually standing up. That particular bird is actually wingless. Of course, he's blamed IBC, he's blamed Chebukati, he's blamed Jose Carmago, he's blamed the international community. The one thing he has not done, of course, is to actually look inside, probably, point from his end and actually see if there was anything that could be blamed on that particular end. Now, there's a question that we really need to ask here. Even as people point out and say that Raila should leave the political scene, has he stopped any other person from coming in? No. Who are these people that are complaining? The young people. Have they feel that? Because what is this particular position that Raila has refused to vacate? Not a constitutional one. He's just himself. As in, therefore, there cannot be another person ascending to the office of Raila. Because the office of Raila is he himself.
Correct.
So, we cannot begrudge him for being himself. Probably what we should be asking, are young people, are these younger generation? Because it's a generational imperative that moving forward, probably Raila does not represent our future, right? Right. He doesn't represent the future of our politics. But we are busy complaining about him being himself and not ourselves coming up to do anything different that stands out. So instead of talking and asking when Raila shall actually leave, we actually need to start asking, when shall we have consequential leadership from these other young people?
All right. Because
he has broken no law. He doesn't occupy any constitutional office illegally. He is not in any. So why are we complaining? So
but
I think for Prof, my point would be that it's tragic not to him when he stays around. It's tragic to us who are complaining. Because he's not stopped anyone else. That a 77-year-old man is one man we are complaining that he's helping us to keep order of our nation when we are young, brilliant, smart, with energy and everything else. Honestly, who should be blamed here? It should be him blaming us. So I think when it comes to Raila, the lesser we speak about him, the better. I only feel bad. You know why? Because every time we come out to speak about him, we look ridiculous. Because whom has he stopped?